Seoul is one of the busiest cities in the world. At the heart of the city of 10 million, there is a small wall. This structure, which looks more like a statue than a wall, represents Donimun, one of Seoul's old 4 main gates. It has yet to be restored. Seoul has been reborn as a global economic power. That achievement was founded on 600 years of urban history. Many cultural artifacts have disappeared over that period, like the Donimun, but the artifacts still remain etched in the hearts of Seoulites. Seoul is a historical city that harmonizes the past and present to create a better future. Take a closer look at this magnificent transformation. The 4 main gates of Seoul represent today's Korean capital. The 4 gates are Seoul, and Seoul begins with its 4 gates. King Taejo, or Seong-gye, decided to make Seoul the capital of Joseon in 1394, 2 years after he established the nation. Seoul is located in the heart of the Korean peninsula, slightly to the west. It connects to the Han River, the vein of Korea, and is home to many mountain ranges. It has long been the hub of Korea. Seoul is surrounded by 4 outer mountains, Yongmasan, Gwanaksan, Deokyeongsan, and Bukhansan, as well as 4 inner mountains, Namsan, Inwangsan, Bugaksan, and Naksan. These mountains act as protective barriers for the city. Seoul in the Joseon dynasty was bordered by the castle walls that connected the 4 inner mountains. King Taejo began building gates to connect the walls. These gates became known as 숙정문 in the north, Donimun in the west, Sungnyemun in the south, and 흥인지mun in the east. The gates contained the king's wish and Joseon's political spirit of Inyeji, that the people would become virtuous, just, pious, and wise. However, the north gate Sukjeongmun does not contain Inyeji. Instead of Ji, it contains Cheong.
처음 서울성곽을 짓고 사대문 사소문을 짓는 과정 속에서 당시 조선왕조의 정치 이념을 마음 백성들에게 알리기 위해서 조선왕조의 기본 정치 이념인 인의예지 신을 바탕으로 성문에 이름을 붙이게 됐던 것입니다. 처음에는 숙정문, 청자가 들어가 있고 중종 때 와서 숙정문으로 이름이 바뀌게 됩니다. 뚜렷한 어떠한 이유는 우리가 그 사료에서 찾아볼 수가 없지만 그 맑을 청자와 단정할 정자가 들어가 있어서 어딘가 뜻이 통하는 의미를 생각해 볼 수가 있습니다. 그래서 서울 도성 전체의 기운을 맑고 단정하게 해야 된다는 이런 의미를 포함을 시켜서 북쪽으로부터의 음기를 맑게 순화시키는 그런 뜻에서 청자와 정자를 붙여 넣었다고 생각할 수가 있습니다.
An interesting fact is that Sukjeongmun was often shut and locked because it was originally located behind Gyeongbok or Gyeongbok Palace, where the king lived. However, geographical diviners said that the gate was full of water energy and the gate was opened whenever there was a long drought. When the Japanese colonial period began in Korea, the 4 gates were in peril. In 1906, when Japanese rule began, the northern wall of Sungnyemun, the main gate of Seoul and national treasure number 1, was torn down to make room for a road. The next year, the southern wall was also destroyed. It is said that the Japanese had intended to tear down Sungnyemun with cannons, but had been stopped by fierce opposition from Koreans. Sungnyemun, however, was never able to recover its function as a gate because it was open on both sides. 흥인지mun, the only gate to have a smaller protective castle, was also rid of its wall by the Japanese under the pretense that a railroad would be built. Now it is left standing in the middle of the road. But even this was a happy fate. Donimun, also known as West Gate, was torn down completely in 1915 to make room for a railroad. The Japanese changed the name of the surrounding area to Seodaemun. Now, there are few who even remember the name Donimun. Donimun was famous as the gate through which diplomatic envoys passed. Chinese envoys of old would equip their procession at the Mohagwan, currently the Donnimun, and pass through Donimun to reach Seoul. It was also the site of tragedy. In 1895, Japanese vagrants gathered here before heading to Gyeongbok, where they brutally murdered the Queen of Joseon, Myeongseong Hwanghu. Beginning in the 1970s, Seoul momentarily muted its painful history and began rapid development. The capital became the driving force and the hub of the miracle of the Han River, a description of Korea's seemingly miraculous economic development. Seoul currently covers only 0.6% of Korean soil, but it is responsible for producing 21% of the country's GDP and is undoubtedly the center of all businesses. Seoul has become one of Korea's most recognizable brands. In the 21st century, Seoul is planning another transformation, going from an economic city to a city breathing with history and culture. In 2009, the city of Seoul made long-term plans to restore Donimun and Seoul's castle walls. Donimun is expected to be restored in its old form, in its old place. This restoration is deeply meaningful in that it represents the recovery of not only a cultural artifact destroyed by foreign powers, but the recuperation of natural pride. It is also important that Donimun is restored exactly in its original form to demonstrate that the Joseon philosophy of Ini-yeji is still very much alive. After restoring Donimun, the city of Seoul plans to create a Donimun Historical Culture Park. This park would be connected with the nearby Gyeonggi-gung or Gyeonggi Palace, the Seoul Museum of History, and the Gyeongyojang building to form a historical center in the heart of Seoul. The 2.175 kilometers of the 18.627 kilometer Seoul Castle walls that have not yet been restored will also undergo construction. Areas that have been cut off with roads or other structures will be marked with wheel tracks or represented with elevated bridges. Castles in the Three Kingdoms era had strong defensive capabilities. Through the Goryeo dynasty and the Joseon dynasty, however, the castle walls evolved from simple defensive structures to symbols of the absolute power of the throne and the nation. The Joseon dynasty saw the use of a mountain castle-flatland castle system. This was a defense system maximizing the utility of the Korean landscape and represented a very different castle culture from that of the West.
서울성곽은 이 산성과 평지성인 서울성곽을 이은 바로 탕춘대성이라는 성곽으로 세 개의 성이 이어져 있는 독특한 구조를 가지고 있어요. 그래서 어떠한 외적을 방어하는 아주 효율적인 성곽체를 갖추고 있고, 이와 같은 것은 세계 어느 나라의 방어 체제에서 볼 수 없는 우리 한국만이 가지고 있는 산성 체제의 특징이라고 할 수가 있습니다. 바로 이와 같은 것들이 세계 문화유산으로서의 지정될 만한 충분한 가치가 있다고 생각되는 것이죠.
The Seoul castles underwent construction many times. It is apparent that building techniques evolved with the passage of time. During King Taejo's reign, rough cubes of stone about 30 centimeters on each side were stacked unevenly. By the reign of King Seokjeong, stone cubes measuring about 60 centimeters on each side were piled neatly and in order. Korea appears to have developed modern building techniques at this time.
저희 서울시는 2013년까지 돈의문과 성북동 등 미보건구간을 전체 복원을 완료해서 서울성곽 총 18.5km를 세계문화유산을 등재 추진할 계획입니다. 세계문화유산에 서울성곽이 등재가 된다면 서울이 교토 그리고 베이징과 1 나라는 역사도시로 거듭나게 될 것입니다.
Seoul is a global economic city of 10 million people. It is the heart of Korea and a symbol of economic development. It is also the capital of Korea, having endured 600 years of harsh and dynamic history. Now Seoul will nurse the wounds of history and restore the castle walls and gates that have guarded it for so long, opening the door to a new era of change and history. Seoul is ready to be reborn as a new global historical city. It is ready to begin another exciting 600 years.